Going back a few years, which was university. It's the first time people actually kind of, can read their boxes. A lot is, so we're going to do.
No, I'm all right. You're coming through it. You're coming the other way.
You can see it.
How are you?
Simon,
So you're
come on through.
Right.
Sorry, it's two charges.
Simon,
Vernon. Hi, Michael. Hi, Michael.
Yes, it's on TV this morning.
And yet he still made it up here tonight, and I think we should give him a great deal of thanks. I'm going to now hand you on to Simon. Thank you all for coming. That's for sure.
First of all, thank you all very much for coming, and to Len for introducing us today. I'm delighted that Vernon's been able to join us. He comes all the way down from Gedling in Nottinghamshire. And I think exactly as Len indicated, I think if you could change the L and the D round, that's what you'd like to do to Michael Fallon during the course of the day. Which are completely disgraceful remarks about Ed Miliband and about Labour's commitment to defence and security. You are looking, please, ladies and gentlemen, I hope, at the future Secretary of State for Defence, and from my conversations with Vernon, and for everything I know about our defence policy, we do not have to worry. And so allegations to the contrary really need to be put into the rubbish bin. Looking back over our history, but particularly looking over the last 70 odd years, the most distinguished Secretary of State for Defence has been Labour, and not from the Tory party. So again, there's nothing for us to worry about there, and we should be very proud of our record in office looking ahead for that. The campaign started. Vernon knows, he's going to tell us, I hope at some point when he's had a glass of wine and relaxed a bit, maybe going to share some inside secrets. The manifesto is about to come out. No doubt the press here would actually like to go exactly what's going on, but he won't be able to say that. No. But the key issues that we put across, the issues about fairness, the issues about inequality, they apply here as much as the rest of the country. They apply across our area, and they have all sorts of impacts. They have impacts in terms of local services and the cuts into county councils, and we know that. I've become a bit of an expert with a bit of advice from various people on the number 8 bus route and the effect of that. But it's a really good example of what happens when you cut back at county level and at district level on services that people really rely on. It seems like a small thing, but it's really indicative of the effects of cuts. We're very much under the cosh in terms of housing. The closeness to London means that housing is unaffordable for people here. We have a particular problem here in South Oxley with persuading people that if there is going to be development here, I jump from there. So there's bound to be development in other parts of the constituency, in Tring and Burcow, to the north here. Let's please ensure that we have the proper infrastructure.
We all want, and let's just wish them apply to them. So we wish wish them well in Watford, Three Rivers, and so on, and try to stand for Hertfordshire, and all of those different things. That those people have the opportunity to vote Labour as well, and there will be people in this area who want to do that, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. Because I tell you this, let me just say this, and this is the argument to use with people. The share of the vote that we get nationally will be important as well. I'll tell you what, those people who would normally vote Labour in this constituency, Simon, if they vote Liberal or they vote something else because they think they've got a better chance of winning, the people that they go to, and it was the Liberals at the last election, wasn't it? Thousands here, weren't there? They voted Liberal. They didn't vote Liberal for a Tory government, did they?
No.
And that's what they got by voting Liberal. I'll tell you what though, the Liberals didn't then say, actually, a lot of the people who voted for us were Labour voters, lending us their vote. They used that nationally, Clegg and all the others, to legitimise what they were doing because they totaled the vote nationally and added it all up. So I say to people in every seat, and Beth, who's come up with me, who works for me, that we were in Macclesfield last week, and we were there in a similar seat, obviously different part of the country, but there was exactly the same, thousands of Liberal votes. So we have to say to people, it is important this, because your vote counts, every Labour vote counts, because that counts as a vote towards making Ed Miliband the Prime Minister
Correct.
of this country. So prioritise, of course, And all of you will be working and doing what you can in all of the seats around that we need to win. But it's also important that we make sure as well that everybody has the opportunity to vote Labour, and it's true here as anywhere else. Let me just say something else as well. I'm really proud, and I say this to Simon without embarrassing him, I'm really proud that a distinguished British Army officer can stand for Parliament for the Labour Party.
Yeah.
In the same way as we have a candidate in Gloucester, a candidate in Shrewsbury, a candidate in Burton. One an ex-RAF officer, one another Army officer, and the other one from the Army Medical Corps. Isn't it great
Yes.
that we have these people standing up for us? Who is it who claims the patriotic banner? All the other parties. Labour is the patriotic party as well.
Yes.
We're not a nationalist party, we're not a nationalistic party, but we are patriotic. And we shouldn't let the other parties own patriotism. And I'll tell you what, people like Simon, showing the commitment he's shown in the months that he's been selected as the candidate here, supported by his wife and others, and supported by his partner, his family, all of those sorts of things here. That is really, really important as well. And let me just also say this. You know, when you go around and talk to the armed forces community, and you'll know this, Simon, when you talk to the armed forces community, it is amazing how many of them come up to you and they say, we support Labour, you know, we support Labour. And I just think sometimes we should be confident as a party that actually we speak for the whole nation as well. There are others who pretend that they own all of this agenda. And Simon, you are the personification of actually saying to those in the Tory party, those in UKIP, those who don't vote, that actually we are the party as well who stand up for the armed forces as well as every other party as well. And I think that's really important. But look, you know, over the next, few weeks, I was going to say few months then, but the next few weeks, yeah, thank God for that. The next few weeks, over the next few weeks, the issues facing you here in this constituency are exactly the same as people facing in constituencies up and down the country. There may be more, people who, are below a certain income level. There may be more people, in other areas who are struggling with disability benefits or who are struggling with this or that. But in this area, isn't it the case that people still want decent education for their children?
Yes.
Of course it is. Isn't it the case that they still want to know that if they're sick, that they've got a national health service that they can go to? Isn't it the case as well that if they've got elderly relatives, that they know that those elderly relatives can be properly cared for and looked after?
Yes.
Isn't that the case here as well as every other part of the country? Isn't it the case that all of these things are true? And isn't it the case that if there are parents here, grandparents in this room, but also across the constituency, that they will want the best for their children and for their grandchildren? Isn't it the case that they will want them to do better than they did?
Yes.
Isn't that a natural scheme of things? That people want that to happen? Of course it is. So let nobody say that when we talk about the importance of offering opportunity to young people, of offering the things that we've said about employing more doctors, more nurses and more midwives for the National Health Service, of protecting the schools budget, don't let anybody say that that is not as relevant here as it is in everybody else. And that's what voting Labour means. People here are standing up for that view of society as well as anywhere else. And I think that moves people. I think that's exciting. I think that's what people think. And we have to speak to those people and speak to them. Look, let me just say this. I don't know look, my constituency is in Nottingham. So we get so many of the same things. I'm sure you get immigration raised. I'm sure you get welfare raised.
Yes.
I'm sure you get Europe raised. I'm sure you do. But let me just say this about that. Isn't it great that we have one party that says We are proud to be a part of Europe. Yes, there are problems with Europe. Yes, there are issues with respect to Europe, but we achieve more by being part of the European Union that has created jobs, stability and growth across the whole of Europe, and we are not going to put that at risk, which would affect people in this constituency as well as anywhere else. And I think that is a really important thing for us to say. Reform Europe, but let's not be paralysed by the promise of a referendum which offers false hope for people. And let's think about the welfare state. Let me just say this. Who in here, or in this constituency, doesn't believe if you can work, you should work? It's a statement of the blindingly obvious. That people should not abuse the welfare state. And if they do, then they should be held to account.
Yes.
But I tell you this, the welfare state was set up to protect some of the most vulnerable people in society, for those who couldn't look after themselves. And whilst we should tackle abuse, we should never ever lose sight of the fact that we will not then excuse a government, which is what we've had over the last few years, which has attacked some of the poorest, most vulnerable people in society and excluded them with policies like the bedroom tax, which we've said we'll abolish. And that will affect people in this constituency as elsewhere. And what about immigration? Well, look, you know, are there issues with immigration? Yes, there are. Are there things that we need to do about it? Yes, there are. So let's be clear about that, and we shouldn't be afraid of saying we will tackle those issues. But let's also be clear that this country has been a welcome for many people over many years, from people from across different countries fleeing persecution, and has also been open and welcoming to people from right across the world and indeed across Europe. And we should not appease those people who try and turn people against each other, who try and set one person against each other. Deal with the challenges, deal with the problems, but don't let that be used as an excuse for undermining some of the very issues that we have and the very things that bring our society together. And that's why I'm proud to be a Labour Party candidate, as I am now, where I've been pleased in the past to have been a Labour MP and a person who has contributed to trying to pursue those ideals. Let me just say a couple of things to finish, because I can see the sandwiches behind me, and I think everyone will be pleased to have some of that. Let me just also say this. We've got loads of policies on the minimum wage, and loads of policies on creating work, and policies on trying to tackle inequality, lots of policies on schools, on the NHS, on all of those different issues. There's lots of policies that we have with respect to all of that, and you'll know them as well as me. Let me also just say this though, to what I think is important. Do you know what I think is really good about the Labour Party? Is it says to people that actually, and the phrase that Ed Miliband uses, and I think is a great phrase, is that Britain can do better than this. It's actually about saying that the Labour Party stands for the values that it's always had. Social justice, equality of opportunity, fairness. Those principles are what has guided the Labour Party and indeed the Labour movement, the trade unions and the co-op and all of those things, and guided many people who set up these Labour clubs, and we've got the chair of the William Morris Labour Club here, set up these Labour clubs, you know, for years and decades ago, has always motivated people to believe that actually people cooperating, working together, standing together, can actually achieve more than a society where you set the strongest against the weak and the weakest can go to the wall. That's what motivates all of us, isn't it? A belief that we can actually build a better society where each can achieve the maximum that they can. And I just say this election, here, you know, where you are, Simon, here in Watford, here in the seats in the north of London and so on, and elsewhere in the region, that argument, I think, is starting to have increasing resonance with people. I don't know whether you do, I don't find people are genuinely really satisfied. There's a sort of sense in which things aren't quite right, a sense in which, is this really the best that we can do? I think what Labour is offering is hope and optimism for the future. It's about saying we can do better than this. It's about there is a better society. There is a better way for our community. We have to have the confidence to believe in that. We have to have the confidence to actually try and inspire others to believe in that and create a vision of a better future. Let me finish with this, which is, I'm sorry Beth, I always like finishing with this. Beth's listened, heard this about 30 times, but I just use it in probably more than that actually. But it's just the sort of, some of you, without being rude, may remember the 1945 general election. Not many. I just had that looking around, not many, but one or two may, when they were very, very young, remember the 45 general. If you don't, you'll have read about it. And isn't it incredible that they had Winston Churchill, a fantastic war leader, no two ways about it, amazing Prime Minister during the war years, returned, and there was the general election in 1945. Millions of people returning, you know, millions of people returning back to the country or voting from abroad. A country devastated by war, even though it was victorious. Houses ruined, the country bankrupt, all of those sorts of things. What did that government achieve over those 5 years? And I say this, if you've not looked at it, go back and look at the posters that were used during that general election campaign. They didn't pretend to people that it'd be easy. They didn't pretend to people that actually nothing, you know, would change. But they said to people, we've actually, you know, had, you know, a victory against fascism, which the country, huge sacrifices have been made by ourselves and the people who fought with us. Now we have to try and build a country which is fit for those people returning and fit for the families here who stayed at home and contributed so much as well. And pictures of the sun rising over the horizon, pictures of, you know, all of those sorts of things about hope and optimism for the future. Some people say I'm nostalgic, that that's a romantic view of where we can go. I actually think offering that sort of thing is what moves people. That's what people want to hear. That's what people want to know. That for their parents they can get the care they need. For their children there's the opportunity for the future. For people there is the housing that Simon just spoke about. Affordable for some, offering other people opportunity in other ways. All of those things matter here and matter in this constituency. So I wish you the very best of luck. I hope you get the best possible Labour vote here. I hope we win all of the other seats around us. Obviously, they're the priority, they're the seats we need to win. We need to do what we can here, which is sensible and reasonable and practical, and we need to try and see if we can get some councillors as well. Thanks for inviting me, good luck for the future, and as I say, Simon, it's a privilege to know you. It's a really privilege for the party that you've seen fit to stand as our candidate. I know what your record is in terms of your career, the way you've served the country, the duty that you've performed in many parts of the world, and I think the people here should be privileged that you are their candidate, and I think the people here, even those who may not vote for you, will pay tribute to what you've done, and we're proud in the Labour Party that you've chosen us to stand for. Thank you very much indeed, everyone. Thank you. That's some food, is it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thanks very much, man, and I think that deserves another round of applause.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. And
what you said was absolutely great tonight as well.
thank you very much.
Inspiring, and I'm sure we fully appreciate it.
No, it's nice to be. It's nice to be here. You know what I mean? I was just thinking of the games at dark.
Bloody fancy things. Well, how am I going to get everybody in?
Who's going to win the election? Labour!
Labour.